All right, we are live with the Celtics live post game. We got another duo in the building, the long-awaited combo show here. We got me, Ev. We got KJ. What's going on, KJ?
Good. Yeah, I'm doing good. Sort of. I wish we
Wish it
talked
was under
about
better
this.
circumstances.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I think that we've had some people in the chat. I know it's Gear mentioned it. Some other people mentioned doing a show together in the future. And yeah, we do wish that we're in a better position than they are now. Wish they won we wish a lot of things. Wish Jaylen Brown wasn't injured, but we wanted to give the people something before this season ends, which it looks like it's going to end. Even by our most pessimistic expectations, it looks like it's going to end possibly a lot sooner than that.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost like this whole season has been like, oh yeah, no, it's kind of like the writing was on the wall, but it's kind of like, oh no, we're not going to be in the play-in. Come on, that's just kind of like a shtick. That's like the Celtics haters shtick. And then it's like, okay, well, even if they do make it, they'll make it past the first round at least. What we've seen lately literally paints no other picture than this is going to be a pretty early vacation for the Celtics. More or less, more early, I guess, earlier than what we're used to, which is, ugh. That's all I can say. Ugh. That's my best vocab word for this last, 8 to 10 games?
Yeah, the play-in thing, I mean, you're right. And it seemed like, a lot of people were saying, you're right, oh, they're in the 7th seed for like, a month ago or whatever. And it was kind of like, well, all these teams are bunched up. Like, the Celtics are going to be the ones to pull away. And one team was the Knicks who pulled away. But I was looking at it before during the game, and on April 17th, they were in sole possession of 4th place. April 17th, like 3.5 weeks ago. Sole possession of 4th place.
I remember talking about on the postgame show possibly getting to 3rd place. Like, oh, is 3rd out of reach? And I was like, probably. But now that's like a absolute dream and a half based on where we are now.
Yeah, and you just think of how far things have fallen since then. Like, then it seemed like, okay, this is what we all thought. This is what, oh, yeah, we were going to be the 7th seed. We're going to be the play-in. Yeah, now we're the 4th seed, and we're the ones that are pulling away, and we're taking off. And then it's just gone all the way downhill, plummeted all the way to 7th now 3 weeks later. And it's just night and day from where we were that short time ago. And I think people don't even realize that because, it's been close all season, and a lot of it's been disappointing. But they were on the right track, and then the train got loose.
Yeah, I know. We're at a point where it is comical. Like when these Celtics teams, they get dug in. I'll bring up Donovan's message here, his comment saying that, they dig this hole and then they make a push. And it's literally like they have a script in front of them of, hey, go down big, then we'll make a push, give the fans a little bit of, hope here. And then they just lose. Like it happens every single game. But we are going to talk about all that and more in tonight's post-game show. I'm going to ask you guys, if you are watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. We just passed 600 subscribers, so thank you very, very much. Hit that subscribe button and like this stream. If you don't like the stream and you're watching right now, I mean, KJ and I are hopping on here after a terrible loss. We're trying to do our best effort here. You got to get the like button smashed to keep us hyped up here. But if you're not watching on YouTube, head over there. And KJ, what do you say we get into the box score and just take a peek at this?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was just about to call you out for this because we were talking before the stream about, just our apathy of like, either way, if they won, it might have been a little different, but pretty much for the most part, we were going to come on and talk about the season being over in some sense. And, I was going to say to you, you usually just bring up the box score right away. But we're like, does it even matter to what we're going to talk about? Like,
what? Hey, we're doing it because it's tradition, but nothing else really.
Is this a post-game stream or is this like an obituary? Is this a funeral? Like, I don't know.
A little bit of both. We'll see where it goes. But, I mean, honestly, like, what are we going to say? That was a great 36 from, this is kind of what we're like alluding to here. Like great 36 from Tatum. It really wasn't even a great 36. Tatum had 33. Kemba had 36. Fournier had 20. If this was a win, those are the numbers and the guys that put up the points where you want them to go. But outside of them, you're not really getting much from anyone else. And honestly, it's like kind of, we said, what's the point of the box score here? Like, yes, if this was a win and they beat Miami and they had the tiebreaker going into the playoffs, whatever, we can celebrate a little bit. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, you know what? Fournier with 20, that's what we got to see out of him. Tatum and Kemba stepping up when Brown's out now. That's great, but it doesn't matter.
Listen to this. Look at this for a second. Just look at this for a second. Let me tell you something. Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker both outscored Every single Celtic player not named Evan Fournier combined, every Celtics player not named Fournier, Tatum, and Walker combined for 32 points. Walker scored 36, Tatum scored 33. This is like beginning of the season bench contributions. And, we should say that this was something that I brought up on the pregame show was, I had, theorized, about the time when you didn't have a bench. And now Fournier is taking on the Brown role. And hey, Nesmith, who'd been playing well recently, I kind of said, can take on that Fournier role because he'd been playing well recently. Well, Nesmith didn't play well tonight. He didn't play much at all. 17 minutes. It's one of his lower minutes. I know 17 still okay for him, but one of his lower playing time games in the last 6 games. I think that's his first or second lowest. So Nesmith, obviously, 6 points still. Somehow they're sixth leading scorer with that number. But either way, these other guys, it kind of goes back to what we saw at the beginning of the season. Now Fournier is playing the Jaylen Brown role of the scorer, but they're not getting any contribution from their bench or anywhere else. And that's just on the bench and all the others besides your main guys and how they scored. But you can talk about that. But afterwards, we need to talk about Tristan Thompson's performance because woof is all I'm going to say about that.
I mean, well, we can go right into Tristan Thompson because let's skip it. Let's skip it. We'll talk Tristan Thompson.
Which broadcast were you watching? TNT or NBC Sports Boston?
Both, but TNT mainly.
Okay, I was watching TNT too. Do you remember at the beginning of the game, TNT, I was running there, and Adam Lefkoe came in and was like, Tristan Thompson over under 8.5 rebounds.
Yeah, the Heat are the worst rebounding team in the league or something.
He's averaging 8.3, and they're the worst rebounding team. What did he have? 3 rebounds, 2 points, and 3 in 28 minutes. What? And he was getting kind of bodied by Bam on a lot of those plays. And Jesus,
he was having his way. Not even bodied. He'd shoot over him. He'd go up and under him. He was just getting worked.
I mean, look, I like Tristan Thompson sometimes, and other times I hate him, and I feel like the reason they brought him into this team for championship DNA, for a veteran presence that can teach players how to win, he hasn't done those things. Like he hasn't instilled those things in the team. And that's why I'm like, why do I want this guy on the team next year for $9 million if they're going to be up against the hard cap and they're going to have to figure out, well, do we want to keep Kemba? Do we want to re-sign Fournier? All this stuff. Like, you're scrounging for money to stay under the hard cap as it is. Get Tristan Thompson out of my face over anyone else. If it comes down to making moves for money, I want Tristan Thompson to be the first guy to go.
The one thing I'll say, and I've defended Tristan Thompson because give me like an 8-and-8 night, or sometimes he'll have like an 8 points, 10 rebounds night, and people don't like that because, he's not scoring double digits and whatnot. I've defended saying if you expected anything more than like an 8-and-8 night from Tristan Thompson when they signed him, then that's your fault. Like Tristan Thompson going for 8-and-8 for you is good, but I can't defend 2 points and 3 rebounds. Like that just, we can't defend that. But KJ, you do know the post-game rule here. We do have a chat to get to, and we are way behind. You already know that when I'm solo, I suck at keeping up with the chat. Now we got 2 people on here, and I know me and you can both talk, so this is going to be difficult.
Well, I'll bring them one up real quick, because I was going to say, I was looking through it too, and I saw Len. Is this optimism that I'm seeing?
Len's, yeah, he loves it. Loves it.
Like, I get it, man.
Keep in mind, it's like 4 a.m. for Lan right now.
I respect like the fan through and through attitude. Like, let's go. We're in the play-in. We're gonna do it. It's like I just can't. I can't.
It might be a little cynical. I don't know what he's playing, but this is something I want to talk about too. And I think I'm gonna ruffle some feathers here. But I tweeted out being like, "Hey, lose by 20." I don't agree that the most toxic. Let me shit on Celtics fans for a second because it's getting kind of annoying. I said, "Hey, let's they're gonna roll over and die, right? That's annoying." And everyone was like, "They're not rolling over and dying. They're just hitting contested 40-footers." The Heat, which was true, but I don't like Celtics fans. Now all of a sudden the excuse was, oh, well, we couldn't do anything about going down 20-plus points because the Heat hit 3 contested 3-point shots. There's so much more that went into the Celtics just pooping away that game than the Heat hitting 3 shots. So it's definitely not a toxic fan base in terms of when you go to looking at the Lakers. But Celtics fans this year are excuse bound, handcuffed. They're tied to at the waist with excuses. Some parts rightfully so, but for the most part, you just went down by 20 to a Jimmy Butler-less Heat team. I can't hear we were down 2 starters and they hit two 35-foot contested threes. How about when Bam Adebayo goes untouched from getting the ball inbounded all the way down the court and dunks it? What's your excuse there? We were out 2 starters.
And even with everything you're saying, which are good points about the game specifically, I mean, how much of your frustration when you're on Twitter right now is even about this game? Like,
totally. Yeah.
It's less than 50%. It's about the team as a whole, and you're like, it's over.
This game just keeps rolling into this season. And it's been like that for a while. How about this? Morris says, how does Brad Stevens tell Tatum not to go for 40 tonight? I don't know if... the funny thing is that they said I think it was on the national broadcast, they said that Brad Stevens told Tatum, hey, you don't need to go and get your points. Let everyone else get their points. That seems like a funny thing when you're down. This is where I'll play the card of down 2 starters, so on and so forth. I feel like Tatum needs to go off in games like this, and he does end up dropping 36, but we've seen Tatum time and time again come off to a ridiculously slow start. Like, he drops 36 points barely playing the first half. It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's a weird comment from Brad, definitely, but like Tatum scored well anyway, so I don't get what he's kind of what kind of point of that is. I mean, I guess the idea would be that Tatum, he still shot well, 12 of 21, so he was pretty efficient. If anything, he should have shot more. You could argue, but like if Brad's argument is like the other guys around you need to play well too, and you need to feed them, like. I don't know. I mean, nobody really besides, honestly, the worst shooting night of the night was Tristan Thompson 1 of 4. And then the second worst was Marcus Smart at 4-10. Everybody else shot 50% or better. So I'm kind of like, except Fournier, who shot just under it.
Yeah.
One shot under it. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, if Brad's saying like the other guys need to get involved, like the other guys suck. Like
that's the thing. It's like you don't want. Hey, I know you might like him a little bit more than me, but you don't want Grant Williams as involved on the offensive end.
You know what? You can shit on Grant Williams all you want. I'm not gonna. I don't want to say that. I've jumped off the Grant Williams train, but
it's been hard to stay on. You could say that. It's been pretty damn hard to stay on.
I'm still like. On it, like let's say like maybe I've jumped off and there's like a cardboard cutout of me still like there holding my seat in case I want to jump.
Okay. That's fair. All right, let's get to some more of the chat here. Ubi saying convinced he'll never see the Celtics beat the Heat again in his lifetime. Kale saying, to be honest, I wish we tanked. Brennan saying felt like the first 2 quarters were pretty good, which is true. They kind of battled back and forth. C's pushed up the tempo. It suited us well as a smaller team. For some reason, we don't attack the paint and it kills me. And it is weird because the Celtics team, that was even one of my live tweets during the game too. All of a sudden, when they attack the paint, they are the better team out there, and then they just abandon that. Like, I don't understand the choice of, hey, we just drove 3 times. We made either a drive and kick 3, or we got to the line, or we made a layup. This 4th time down the court, now let's take a dribble, 2 dribbles past half court and chuck a 3. I don't understand the offense, and I don't know, it just drives me kind of nuts.
So I was thinking about this today, and this to a different comment. The thing about I wish we tanked. I was thinking about this today on the pregame too. Is how low could they get if they tanked right now?
Well, I don't want to tank because I don't want to get any more young guys. So it's like I get it. You tank, but I don't want any more young nobodies.
Right, but just for the sake of argument, I was looking at it, and theoretically, I think they could get to the 12th lottery odds, and this is how. They lose both play-in games. They don't make the playoffs, and then I think you would need 2 of the following 3 teams. You would need basically. You need to lose the play-in games, lose playoffs, and then you'd need the Spurs to get into the playoffs. You need the Spurs to win their play-in and get into the playoffs. And if you do that, then you have a worse record than the Grizzlies, the Warriors, the Lakers. You have a worse record than 2 of those 3 teams. and then the two of those two teams miss the playoffs along with you, and you get the 12th pick, 12th lottery odds at least. Then is lottery time. Okay, it's lottery time on lottery.
And then we get another Romeo Langford, and that's super exciting.
And then, well, I was gonna say the Celtics land the number 1 pick and get Cade Cunningham, but
so you're playing like the lottery. You're playing the lottery. Oh man, how about this, KJ? To go back, we're talking about trains that we were on.
Oh my goodness.
How about I even say, I was a Terry Rozier fan as a shtick before he was even good. Like, I would defend him when he really wasn't even good. Turns out he's good. I've said over and over on this postgame, as much as I'd love Terry here, and I still would, I don't know if he would, because he is a me guy. Like, he does want to get his numbers. He plays well with other guys. Like, we see that in Charlotte, but I don't know if he would have grown as much or if the Jays would have grown as much with him. But I would take him on this team right now in an absolute heartbeat.
Have you seen the comparisons to his stats and Kemba Walker's stats this season?
I haven't.
Because it's like pretty clearly Terry Rozier.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I would take Terry over Kemba in a millisecond right now, and that's coming from someone that like usually defends Kemba and likes Kemba. Terry is legit. Yeah,
so if you put Terry on this team over Kemba, like, what changes? Let me ask, like, what does he do worse than Kemba? You want to say leadership or something? Like, attitude.
Yeah,
like,
all that stuff that really hasn't mattered this year anyways, right?
Yeah, here's the thing. Kemba is a positive guy. He's a cheery guy, fun, great smile, very cool guy. But Terry's attitude, although it's not as positive, which you could form easily, he's not as positive, so it's a negative. Not really that way. No. Terry is scrappy. Like,
he's the attitude they're missing. He's literally the attitude they're missing on the team.
Terry's a dog, like, and
yes.
he's like a competitor, and I think you put him, like, when you look at the playoff run they had when he was with Tatum and Brown, like, they could just compete it, and I think that as much as I've ragged on Terry in the past, if they had him with those three guys, I think they'd be better, and I was wrong about Terry. He's a lot better than I thought he was going to be. He's a very good scorer, and Kemba was still really good last season. He was an all-star last season. Is Terry ever going to be there? I don't know. But I think long-term, they probably would have been better served to hold on to Terry Rozier.
Yeah, I think he's also, like, literally at the end of the day, stuff you can't teach. He's bigger, stronger, like, by default, better defender because of that. Like, I would take him in an absolute heartbeat.
Now, they have Peyton Pritchard now. So could he be your point guard of the future? Maybe. By the way, Peyton Pritchard right now, he's second in Celtics franchise history in three-point percentage.
So can I ask you a question then? Kemba Walker gets hurt early in the game, right? Like minute 40 into the game. So that's second in three-point percentage in Celtics history, right? You'd think you'd bring in your backup point guard, the guy we're propping up, right? No, he brings Carson Edwards, who dusts the cobwebs off his arms to get into the game. What's that?
I mean,
it's an easy answer, right? You clearly got that one.
Yeah, totally. I know exactly what Brad Stevens was thinking, and I'm going to tell you right now. He
turned around and said, "Oh shit!" That's what he said.
Well, I don't know why. What's funny is that way back a long time ago, the one thing you would say Carson Edwards can do is shoot. And as I just pointed out to you, he's not a better shooter than Peyton Pritchard. Yeah, so I have no
literally.
Clue. Do you need his thighs out there to guard Kendrick Nunn? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It was weird. It was a weird decision. I have no idea why he made it.
Here we go. We got Brad saying, "I love your show. It's the best part of being a Celtics fan this year." And Brad, it's not the first time you said it either, so I do appreciate that. And on that note, make sure everyone hits that subscribe button and likes the stream as you are watching. There's more people watching right now than have liked the stream, so you know the deal. If you haven't liked it, it means you hate me. And KJ's on the show too, so it means you hate him, and no one wants to hate him. But he says, "I don't think Jaylen Brown would have been a difference maker in the last two losses. I think he could have been a difference maker, but I don't know how big of a difference it really would have meant in the entirety of the year. Maybe they get out of the play-in, but this team has something fundamentally wrong with them that it'd be Jaylen Brown obviously helps it, but there's been a lot of terrible, crappy games this year that Jaylen Brown was healthy for. So
right, before I get to the Jaylen Brown thing, I need to ask you, because I've been saying this on a lot of things. Did you do the bobblehead giveaway thing that we were talking? Did you end up doing that, or has that not been live yet?
It's still in the works. It's not. There is hopefully a bobblehead giveaway happening, but
could be. All right, so we're talking behind the scenes a little bit here, so you guys are seeing this a little bit, but there could, if you subscribe to the channel, Eventually, you're going to be in a giveaway. We can tell you that much. Eventually, there will be a giveaway, and you'll be in it if you subscribe. How's that? Anyways, the Jaylen Brown thing. I think he would have been a difference maker. I really do. Of course, he's an all-star. How can you say he wouldn't have been a difference maker? Of course he would have been. But overall, when you talk about the encompassing the whole season and how much of a difference maker he would have been the whole season, when I started thinking, I started reminiscing back on the whole season. The two real turning points to me, and this might sound crazy to you, but the two, at least recently, the turning points, when we talk about, being in fourth place, April 17th, were those two losses to the Bulls. The Bulls have been so bad since they traded for Vucevic. They've been awful. They've been a joke. It's embarrassing how bad the Bulls have been. They trade away their first-round pick for an all-star. Everybody's like, okay, great. The Bulls are going to be in the play-in because they just traded for an all-star. And they've sucked, and you lost to them twice. Should have been 2 easy wins. You should have picked up both of those, and it'd be a completely different story right now. If we go back to the beginning, we go back to Sunday morning. If you had won those 2 games against the Bulls, you're 1 game ahead of Miami going into that game. And you're tied with the Hawks for 5th or whatever it is. That's the type of splitting hairs we're talking about this season. That's the narrow margins we're talking about. Just 2 games against the Bulls that you lost. You cannot lose those games. And then do you still lose against Miami? I don't know. Does Jaylen Brown play through his injury? I don't know. But it's just completely different. And to me, that's where things really flipped. And you can even say, by the way, throw the log pile onto that, is the Thunder loss, because that was embarrassing. You can't lose to a team like that that's tanking. And you in the process of that, that's where a lot of people suppose Jaylen Brown injured his wrist in the first place. So that was a big one too. So any of these losses, take your pick. Losses to these should be easy wins. You're just dropping them to these terrible teams. You just can't do that. And that's the story of the season.
It's so bad that the Celtics team, we could have an hour-long debate about what was the worst loss of the year. Usually, for any team, it's kind of oh yeah, no, it was that one. That was terrible. There has been so many games that just end in sort of wait, we didn't just lose that, right? I'm dreaming or something. Pinch me, something just happened. So, I mean, honestly, the turning point, I do think, and that was even an excuse that that Celtics Twitter kind of made too. Oh, well, no, Levine makes that team so much better. He does make them so much better. He takes them from a dog water team to just a dirty-ish water team. Celtics still should have won both of those, but we got a little beef going on between 2 people with the same name. We have Stephen J saying, I want Tatum to dominate. And then Stephen Taylor saying, how can Tatum dominate when he's triple teamed? Then you'll say he's selfish. So the Heat seem to have Jason Tatum, maybe even just the Celtics number right now, because Jason Tatum, he has made a lot of progress, passing out of a double team or triple team. But I don't know if you've noticed, when Jason Tatum gets the ball, he takes this huge pause before anything happens, which a lot of the time that's good. See what's going on, don't rush things. But the Heat wait for him to take that pause, so Jason Tatum scans the floor and sees no double teams coming, and then all of a sudden he puts his head down and takes one dribble, and then they shoot at him. And to be honest, that's his kryptonite right now. He makes some passes fine, but he really was having a tough time out there. And this also just kind of rolls into, okay, Tatum gets double teamed, he's passing the ball to Carson Edwards or something, Semi Ojeleye, for what's going to happen then. So it's I want Tatum to dominate too, but it is tough for him to dominate when he's getting triple teamed. That's why you need, Kemba Walker, Evan Fournier to hit these shots, which they did tonight. But
so think about it this way, because I think Tatum, very early on in his career, he was making those quick moves that you're talking about, but he wasn't thinking. He wasn't thinking about what he was doing. He was just going, and it's caused a lot of bad plays, a lot of turnovers, a lot of shots in traffic, whatever. It was not effective. Now you're seeing the progression of, now I'm getting the ball, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do. I'm assessing the situation. I'm looking across the floor. What am I going to do? Maybe he's even doing it in part to say, all right, let me wait for them to double so I can kick it out for an open shot. The next progression of his game is knowing exactly the situation, knowing what's on the floor, knowing what he wants to do before he gets the ball. And then he can know those quick moves again, but he's doing them with the knowledge of what the defense is going to do, how they're going to react to him, and being able to attack that. And that's just the progression of a player. And I think you can hope that that's what we're going to see with Tatum in the years to come.
So you think that this is probably a maturity? It's something that he's easily going to grow out of? Because that's where I am too. And I'm not saying anyone in the chat or you or anyone's really saying, oh, that's going to be a Tatum issue forever, because it's not. The strides we've seen him make, and not the same strides in parts of their game, but same with Jaylen Brown. Anything that we've ever ragged on these players for, these two guys in particular, they do come back stronger the next year. And, you're right. If Jason Tatum were to get the ball and do what he used to do and just kind of go right away, then it's probably a worse case. It's worse than what's happening now with the double team. But I'm just saying the Heat, and maybe credit to Spoelstra, maybe credit to Jimmy Butler, the leaders on that team, they know Jason Tatum takes the 2-second pause, and they just knew it's like someone was on the Miami Heat defense, and then they go, stay, sick 'em, and they just had the timing perfect. And, I mean, hopefully that's something that turns around for Tatum, but it's like not... I'm giving credit, I guess, more to the Heat defense for that particular play or strategy, just versus other teams they've played where, when they double Tatum, it's like, okay, well, they double him right away and you can pass it. But anyways, all right, we got a lot of chat to get into.
Talking with what's he talking to me? Is it Teddy? Is it
Bravo?
Bravo, right? You're teaching Bravo with the stay sing them. It is like just whenever you see a Lakers fan or something walking by your house, something like that. No, but yeah, I think that I think the hope is that as Tatum progresses in his career, as he starts to think the game better. I mean, clearly he's a student of the game. You talk about, his idolization of Kobe and how how he looks up to him. I think that, that natural progression, if you continue to put the work in, is going to happen. And I think, you look at Kobe, like a lot of people compare those two, and it's kind of a little unfair. But either way, you get that comparison a lot because Tatum models his game after Kobe a little bit. And people would look at it and say, well, Kobe won at a young age. Why isn't Tatum winning at a young age? Why is he winning championships? Well, Kobe had Shaq.
Yeah, way different.
Almost a unanimous MVP. If Tatum had, LeBron or Durant or whoever in the league right now, like, he probably was winning a championship by now. So,
yeah.
I think that's a little bit, unfair, but even still, I would still say, that Tatum, hopefully, as things, progress, he can end up doing that a little bit on his own. And, is he going to win 5 titles like Kobe? No. But Kobe won 2 where he was the main guy without Shaq. So if Tatum can kind of do that, I think he eventually could get to that, same level and win 2 of his own with Brown and the company in tow. So I think that's the hope and that's progression. By the way, I don't know if you put this up already, but I did want to say something about it. Because I know we were not talking about the game. We were talking about the game and the season, but mostly the season. But I wanted to mention this because, I was thinking about what we were going to talk about before the game, and they really did play like they hung with Miami those first 2 quarters. It was close.
Yep.
And then at the end of the second half, Miami started pulling away, and it's just like they have a lot of guys to throw at you, and they never stop. And it was kind of goes back to everything people have talked about with effort this year. Like, the Celtics really gave effort in that first half, but Miami out-efforts you. Like, it's hard to out-effort Miami, and eventually they just kind of wore the Celtics down. They were like, we don't have anything left to give, and Miami's tank never runs out, and that's kind of what happened tonight to me.
Yeah, and it's like the minute they saw that sort of adversity, the Celtics said, oh, geez, I feel that. I feel it. And, they're not actively making the decision, hey, let's give up here. But they kind of just said, oh, crap, we don't have anything to throw at them. But, all right, we're going to skip ahead in the chat just a little bit here. Donovan saying the best part of the season, Pritchard and Nesmith developing. That's great. It is, and that is positive. It's definitely one of the better parts of the year. Obviously, there are parts of the year that were positive. Obviously, the injuries suck, but Robert Williams broke out. Jaylen Brown, all-star. There are positives in this year. But at the same time, I want to ask you this, because I'm still making up my mind here on this. Based on where they were drafted, Pritchard, I think, is obvious. Like, that's great to see what he did. But based on, I guess, we'll broke these guys into the same thing. Based on where they were drafted, are we considering it a positive? Like, do you think Nesmith was a positive draft pick this year? Based on what we've seen lately, he's probably going to get better, and maybe...
this is the point I was going to get to as well, is that Nesmith, his progression, like, you're talking about 5 games,
right?
4 games that just happened within the last 2 weeks. Like, those, don't get me wrong, those were great games, and there were good things in those games. But that's not enough of a sample size to say, oh, this is the player he is now. It's not. And you saw it tonight a little bit because he wasn't out there enough to really notice it. But he's not going to be that player every night. Like, I think people have kind of gotten to this mindset of, oh, Nesmith is dropping 16 and 16 and 16 and 15, and oh, that's the player he is from now on.
Yeah.
So, cool the Jets a little bit. I don't think so. Over the course of the whole season, he hasn't been good enough. So, to your point, if you want to say the play of Pritchard, because Pritchard, the progression, like he's played really well all season. I haven't seen like major leaps and bounds. He was good from day one. But the progression of Robert Williams, to your point, like that's a big development this season that I think you can come away and say is a real positive.
Yeah, I think that is. I mean, I think Jaylen Brown's the layup of the answer. Like the guy turns into, an all-star player, averaging almost 25. Like that's amazing. But on the Nesmith note, it's like, I do think that he is going to get better and better. Like he clearly has that work ethic. I get frustrated, and I've talked about it here before too, that we started to see Nesmith get a little bit better and better and better, right? We started to see, that's a tough number, big time. We started to see Nesmith get better and better like a couple months ago, right? And then all of a sudden, Brad just says, zip, out of the rotation, sits forever. People are like, what did he do? Did he beat Brad Stevens' grandmother? Did he, sleep with his wife? Like, why isn't he playing? It's basically because Romeo came back and just like they gave Romeo the shot. But it makes me wonder if Nesmith got that month back of being out of the rotation, where he would be now. Now, I'm not trying to give him too much credit, but I am going to, err on the side of the glass half full. I think Nesmith could have been a lot better if he didn't pretty much take a vacation in the middle of the year due to Brad Stevens just pulling him out of the rotation.
Yeah, I mean, good God, can we talk about that number again? My goodness.
Yeah, that's tough.
I'm a little further along this than you are. I know you stayed back to keep up with everybody gets, and I was looking at what we're talking about now a little bit, and geez, minus 16. That was the worst on the team. In 17 minutes. In 17 minutes, and he came in like in the end of the fourth, where Miami really pulled away. I don't know how much of his fault that was. Am I still in here? I'm seeing this as what is going
You're
on
good.
here?
You're
good. Anyway, minus 16, worse on the team. So there's only 2 players in double digits for plus minus. All right, the other one was Tristan Thompson, who we already talked about how bad he was tonight. But minus 16 in 17 minutes, that is terrible. That is awful. I don't know how you're that bad in that limited amount of time. Like. And again, not entirely his fault, but wow.
No, it's not his fault, but it's not. I always go plus minus. Plus minus, I think, is a good stat in a back and forth game, which half of that game was back and forth. A blowout at the end when Nesmith's playing a lot, I do think a lot of that's not his fault, but at the same time, a negative plus minus is worse than a positive plus minus, no matter how much you look at it. So I think that it's. I think pretty...
you know what some people might say, Ev, is that positive plus minus means nothing, but a negative plus minus means something.
Yes, that's fair. That's fair. Steven saying Tatum got doubled 22 times. Yeah, it's all about having, and I know Steven mentioned earlier too about having someone else, like, these really big superstars when they're a young team with no one around them. No one's gonna know, how good they are, which is the case. Wongy, longtime supporter of the stream, says, what I don't get is that pretty much everyone wants JP and JB to dominate and run the show, but how exactly is that going to work when a coach like Stevens is that big on team play? It is tough, and not that we can answer this question directly, but I do think there is some sort of, now that we've come towards the end of the year, I think there's some serious validation to the Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown maybe don't have the same views of this team and where this team's going as the coach. Like, I don't think Jason Tatum ever is going to be a true team guy. That doesn't mean he can't be a great Celtic, a great player, but Jason Tatum, we drafted him as a scorer. People picture his number in the rafters as a scorer. Him to turn on and all of a sudden be a consistent, it'd be amazing if it happened. I'm not saying that, but him to turn on and be a consistent 8-9 assists per game type of player because Brad Stevens wants him to swing the ball and stuff. I think that's asking way too much. I think that's going to paint a bad picture if that's the expectation for Tatum. He's a scorer. He's the guy that can go get you 60, and he'll pass it. We've seen Jason Tatum's passing get better and better, but he's never going to be a passer.
Yeah, and I was thinking about what the team of the future might look like. Like, say they move on from Kemba and Smart and a couple of years here, next couple of years, and the team of the future is Pritchard, Brown, Nesmith, Tatum, Robert Williams. Okay, say that's the lineup, and then all of a sudden, hey, you got some nice shooting around Tatum and Brown with Pritchard and Nesmith, both great shooters. Pritchard, as I just said, a great shooting, 3-point shooting this season. I think Nesmith was over the last month, like leading the league in 3-point percentage, which
53 or 54%, something like that.
Yeah, it is great, by the way. But I will say, as I said before about the sample size thing, 67% of those games he was barely playing. He's getting like one attempt up a game. So that's not exactly indicative of anything major either. But even still, to the point, it's still positive. So let's say there was a lineup like that. Okay, Pritchard and Nesmith and Williams around Brown and Tatum. Who's passing? Who is passing the ball in that, like, they're all shooters. You know, it's like Williams, who's a lob threat. No one's facilitating there. It's all Brown and Tatum. Like that lineup, that construction of the Celtics, if that's what the future holds, is like all ISO, all pick and roll with Williams and Brown and Tatum, and it's just kick out, like, and you know, spot up and shoot, and everybody's shooting. And like, you know, to your point, I don't think Tatum can average 9 assists or 8 assists a game, or Brown can do that. Like, I don't know how that's going to work, because one of the problems we've had all season long is their lack of passing. And I'm painting this picture for you where it could get worse. Like, Marcus Smart's probably your best passer on this team. Imagine losing him, which a lot of people think they should this offseason. A lot of people are ready to move on. Can
I cut you off real quick? Because this is I'm pumping air in your tires here. I'm giving you credit. You remember I was on your podcast last year. We talked about Marcus Smart, and I said, no, Marcus Smart, like, you can't touch him. He's the guy that his energy feeds off onto other players and whatnot. And you were like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And I was like, yeah, it does. You're stupid if you don't think it. Look at where we are right now. Is Marcus Smart's energy feeding off onto anybody? No. So I'm giving you credit here. I think you might have won that bout, because, to be honest, this is the team that desperately needs any sort of Marcus Smart energy, and they're not getting it. So I think you won that round, because I was adamant that Marcus Smart was a necessary sort of, he sets the tone for the Celtics, which, you know, I was probably in the majority. I haven't seen much of that out of him.
Yeah, and thank you very much. I'll take that credit. I won't rub it in your face too much, but I will just say that to further that point, I think when we were talking about that conversation, we were talking about trading Marcus Smart. We were talking about potentially trading him for the 6th overall pick, where the Celtics wanted to draft, I think, Okunga or something. You know, would that have been great? I don't know. Okunga's still young. He's playing behind Capella. Who knows what he's going to be? And Robert Williams has been fine. So I don't think that, you know, I don't know that would have worked out anyway. But either way, let's just play out the scenario anyway. So you trade Marcus Smart. You think about trading Marcus Smart last offseason. You probably could have got a lot more value for him than you could have this offseason. Like, his value's gone down. And I think that the 6th overall pick, like, could you gotten a good player for it anyway? I don't know. But was that even on the table for Atlanta for Marcus Smart for 6? I don't know. But you heard all this stuff about Marcus Smart even for 2 for Golden State, so I have to think that might have been in play. And Atlanta Atlanta might still be a trade partner this year, but Atlanta really wants a defensive guard next to Trae Young. Like, they went after Drew Holiday. They brought in Chris Dunn to do it. Like, and they turn around the season. They have a really good year, but they still don't have that piece they want of, like, we need someone to guard players so Trae Young doesn't have to. Yeah. So, like, Dunn can do it okay, but Marcus Smart would be an upgrade in that respect. So I think that they somewhat have interest, but last offseason, you could have got a lot more than you can now if you're going to trade him now, which is part of why I might not even trade Marcus Smart now, because it's like, if I don't think I'm going to get equal value back at this point. But no,
I think I'm in that same boat. He's definitely touchable for me now. You know, he's not like an untouchable. Not that he ever was truly untouchable, but he is, you know, forget even the numbers and the offensive skill or whatever. If you still are clinging on, which I am clinging on, that, you know, on a good team, Marcus Smart is the heart. He is the tone setter. You're not going to get a guy that is offensively talented that compares with that sort of grit and that energy and whatnot, because you're going to get a guy that, you know, is maybe better offensively than Marcus Smart, but lacks in other areas. So I mean, I'm willing to throw him in on a deal, but I don't think, I'm kind of in your same boat. I don't think you're getting equal value for him. This is another great.
You wonder, because I think that, you know, Marcus Smart was a good leader, and he did, you know, bring some energy. It's kind of like what I was talking about with Terry Rozier, right? The tenacity. Like, it is possible to feed off the energy of another guy, but it hasn't happened this year. And you wonder what it is. And you remember, you know, Brown and Smart and Tatum, they, you know, all those guys in that locker room when they were playing against the Heat, they had that little blow up and they had a little scuffle. And I think largely we believe, well, you know, just frustration. They don't, you know, there's no real issues there. But what if there is? And what if part of the problem this season has been, like, we're not listening to Marcus Smart anymore? You know, what if that's part of the issue? We're not, you know, like, we're still playing together. We're still teammates. Like, we're not going to ignore each other on the floor or anything. But, like, we're not going to feed off his energy anymore because we're ignoring him because he annoys us or something like that. Like, look, I'm not, like, trying to speculate too much. Like, that stuff kind of happens in any relationship. Eventually, things, you know, whether it's a friendship, whatever, sometimes things run their course and you break up, and that happens in a lot of relationships, or, you know, you stop talking to somebody or whatever it might be. And, you know, maybe something along those lines has happened here with Marcus Smart. And now the Celtics are like, we're tuning him out. We're not feeding off his energy anymore, and that's part of the problem. I don't know. I'm just speculating there, but like there's clearly something that's wrong, gone wrong, at least a little.
Wangi says in the comment here, says Smart's energy has looked off. That injury that kind of stunk, but anyways, his energy's looked off all season. There might be some questions there, and you might be right. Maybe Marcus Smart's pizzazz and his sort of, I keep saying grit and determination on repeat here, maybe that has sort of worn off. Or maybe Marcus Smart doesn't even do that type of stuff as much anymore. Because the way he's playing, it looks like he thinks he's got a little bit more credibility on the offensive end than he does. So maybe he started to transition from the dirt dog to the, I'm just an all-around basketball player. And I don't know if that's what we love here. This is also a funny one, saying, Ray's saying, I want Mike Tyson as the new coach so he can smack these dudes, not put an effort in. I mean, Mike Tyson might be a little strong. I'd like the intimidation factor, but I'm not trying to go in there with 7 guys with active concussions.
Yeah, that is true. I'm trying to think of like what word Mike Tyson would mess up that would completely screw the Celtics over. Like
every word in the human language.
yeah. Like some like crazy word that's like, you gotta defend it, like the full court press is on it. It's like, what you want to do? What is like totally messes something up. I can't think of it. But anyway,
you think there's a communication breakdown between Brad Stevens and Jason Tatum? If Mike Tyson were in the huddle, Jason Tatum would walk away going, "What the hell did that guy just say?" There'd be no coaching going on there. But there is a lack of sort of, I guess, intensity.
I guess it was something like, you got a clear path to the hoop. And it's like, pass to the hoop, and it's like, it's like throws it at the, basket or something like that. I don't know.
So Steven's saying, if KJ's right, this is about Marcus Smart, what the hell? We can't blame those players if he's not going to do the stuff he's known to do. And this is kind of like, how are you going to talk the talk if you're not going to walk the walk, in my opinion, if I spin that question in a different way. It's kind of like if Marcus Smart's saying, hey, let's go out there, let's grind, let's play tough, let's want to win. We haven't gotten that energy really off of Marcus Smart. So you think Jason Tatum's going to listen to Marcus Smart? Why? Because he's done that for a few years now? Jason Tatum's saying, dude, I just dropped 60. I don't need to hear what you have to say anymore.
Yeah, and I think
this is all hypothetical. They probably love each other.
Maybe a little bit of it is too, we're all stars now. We do the scoring. We do the flashy stuff. You do the dirty work. Like, why are you coming to us? Tell us to do the dirty work.
What we're saying makes a lot of sense.
You go to Rob, you go to Kemba, you go to these guys, you tell them to do the dirty work. We're doing the heavy lifting, and you guys are doing the the cleanup stuff underneath us. That stuff is beneath us now. We're all stars. So and I've thought all season, I've thought about this all-star trajectory for Tatum and Brown, and I had hoped, because people talk about the ISO ball and the lack of passing and then and I had thought, okay, yeah, there's a lot of that this season from Brown and Tatum, but part of that is just they want to be all-stars. And I thought, hey, once they get named all-stars, then they can start playing more team basketball because it's like we have the accolade. We don't care about the stats as much now. They can come down a little bit, and that really never happened. So, I don't know. Look, there's a lot of possible things that could have gone wrong this season that we don't even know of yet. There's a lot of obvious things. There's a lot of things that could have potentially happened behind the scenes that we just are left to speculate about. And it's, we could do it all night until we finally get to what if, like what do you say? What if Aaron Nesmith punched Stephen's grandmother? It's like we could do it until we get to all those different theories. But at the end of the day, something's not right with the Celtics, and they have to find a way to fix it before next season because they still have a lot of talent. To me, it's not time to blow this thing up. It's not, at least from the perspective of getting rid of Brown and Tatum. Definitely, it's not just time to all right, let's turn the whole roster over and start over and start from scratch. No, it's not
blow it up, but something significant is going to happen. And something significant's brewing. Whatever anyone's interpretation of significant is, maybe it's getting the man of the hour that we're talking about here, trading Marcus Smart. Maybe it's a new coach. Something significant is probably going to happen because if they just make a little move or something like they add another role player or something, like this team gets a little bit better, but I still think we're going to have some big time issues.
Yeah, and I don't know what to do. I think if there was one big move I was going to make that I'd be okay with, because I largely think there's a way you can talk yourself into, let's just run it back. COVID days missed, injuries, it was a very weird year for the players, their short layoff, so many things you can do. You talk about the record they had when they had Robert Williams, Smart, Tatum, Brown, Kemba all starting together. There's a lot of things you can say. Like, there is an argument to be made to just run it back. And it's the same argument, by the way, that should be being made for the Raptors, who didn't even play a home game all year. Like, that's still a very talented team. I think that there's a serious, legitimate argument that they should run it back. If I was them, I probably would just take my draft pick and go from there. But I think if there was one move I was going to make, it would be looking into a Kemba Walker deal. And I don't love it because it's like, once you give up that max slot, you're not getting it back because Brown and Tatum under max contracts, they're taking up all your salary cap space. Unless you trade Kemba Walker for a max player, you're not getting another max player back.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that being the case, I feel like I'm ready to be like, let's see what we can get for him. Let's shop him a little bit. And if we feel like we can get a good player for him or a good pick or whatever, a decent enough pick, a decent enough player, then the reason I'm comfortable trading him is because I feel like Peyton Pritchard at this point, this version of Kemba Walker, who, not tonight, because he was pretty good tonight, but if he's averaging 18 a game, then Peyton Pritchard can give me, 13 a game, and he can do it every night as opposed to Kemba giving it to me half the time. And I'll see what other value I can get for Kemba that can maybe replace that on a night-night basis. And you start on the future trajectory of having Peyton Pritchard as your starting point guard. So I don't hate it. I mean, if you need to shake things up, that's probably the move I would make after you trade Tristan Thompson. But, I don't know, man. There's a serious argument to say just run it back because there's some things you can look at the season and say, well, this was wonky, that was wonky, blah, blah, blah. There's not going to be COVID protocols, next season that are killing us like they did this year. And, I don't know. We'll see what Danny Ainge does. Usually very level-headed, so maybe he'll be the voice of reason here this offseason.
Lance says, how big is your frustration level at this point? I'm past frustrated. Like, I'm literally, we were talking hitting that live button, like almost, I mean, not even almost, at the point of over the season. Like, I don't expect any sort of, it's bad. Let me ask you this. Connor says, serious question. Switch Eric Spoelstra and Brad at the beginning of the year. Is our record better? He says, unfortunately, I think so. What are you guys thinking? I think Spoelstra's he's the only coach that seemingly outlasted LeBron. Like, I really, really think Spoelstra is a real, and as highly rated as he is, I still think he's an underrated coach. I do think that they're a better team under Spoelstra. But at the same time, that is banking on, which I definitely have said and do believe that a lot of this blame goes on the coach. If it isn't on the coach and you switch out the coach and it's really a Jason Tatum or a Jaylen Brown or a Marcus Smart problem, then I don't think so. But I believe that a lot of this blame, it falls on the coach. So I do think Spoelstra leads them to a better year. I don't know if they become a champ. I don't know if it's day and night. All of a sudden you're a championship caliber team because everyone deserves some blame here. But I think you definitely are a better team with Spoelstra over Stevens, and I think we've seen that in the last playoff series, and then these games this year outside of the one that the Celtics ended up winning. Like, Brad Stevens just getting outcoached by Spoelstra.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because Spoelstra, I think, is a good coach. I agree with you. It's just I look at him compared to Stevens, and it's like I don't really think coaching was the problem this year. Like, there's certainly
that's where we differ. I think it's got to start somewhere, and I think.
So what do you think Spoelstra does that's different from
is involved in the game, engaged in the game? I don't think Brad Stevens is whatsoever. Spoelstra's in the game, and to use a quote like Nick Nurse, he considers the coach just as much of a player as the players are out there. And I think Brad Stevens, every time you look at him, he's sitting there legs crossed, arm crossed on the sidelines. And I think that the players maybe are tuning that out and they're past that. That's good if you're this mastermind that's cooking up the schemes, but all of a sudden those schemes aren't working, these plays aren't working, the team's not looking good. You can't sit there with your arms crossed and, looking at your iPad to see what's going on across the league. Spoelstra is involved in the game. He's in the game. He's intense with his players. He's up and down the sidelines. That's literally a cut and dry black and white difference between those two coaches.
Yeah, and, we talk a lot about, coaching and whether, it's the right thing to do to fire Brad Stevens because he's such a good coach. And, I think about I was thinking about this the last few days, and these are different sports, so it doesn't always track. But when the Yankees were at the top of their dynasty, like, they fired coaches left and right. Like, there was jokes about how often George Steinbrenner fired managers. Like, he fired a manager every year. We felt like, I think it was like something like, I don't know, and he had like 24 managers in 17 years or some crazy stupid number. Like, so, and you look at the Celtics back when they were winning in the 80s with Larry Bird, they fired coaches a bunch too. They brought in new guys all the time. And, even You look at recently, like the Lakers are doing this thing. They fire their coach. They bring in Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel was, he was okay. He was pretty good with the Pacers, but they bring him in. And now if they don't win this year, they might fire him. And, if they, like you have Ty Lue, you had David Blatt with the Cavaliers. They fire him. They bring in Ty Lue. They start winning.
It's happened so many times over and over again, and people get over it. If people truly think that if they get rid of Brad Stevens, and I'm probably I keep giving a barometer on the post-game show of where I am. I'm probably at I think I said last game 88% kind of on board. I'm not fully there yet, but I don't think people understand how quickly you would get over that. They would get over you as much. Brad Stevens could go on and succeed elsewhere. I get it. Celtics fans would get over him not being the coach anymore.
And for the most part, even after you get rid of a coach, good teams are still good. Like, and I think hold on, let me look this up real quick, because another analogy I was going to use.
Wongy wants a womp womp. He's going to get a womp womp. If there's anyone that can request anything, it's Wongy.
By the way, where coaching is actually really important is football, and I think that Bruce Arians is a good coach, but Brad Stevens, But Tom Brady leaves Bill Belichick and goes to win with Bruce Arians, and he wins the Super Bowl with Bruce Arians. Did it matter who his coach was? Like, you just change the coaches. It's about the players and whether the players like the coach, a lot of it. So whether your best players like the coach. And so, like I said, good teams, if your team is good and you fire a good coach and you bring in someone else, the team's usually still good. Like, think about Pat Riley. We're talking about Pat Riley, the Miami Heat, all this great stuff about him. They get rid of Pat Riley. They have Eric Spoelstra coach the team. They're still pretty good. And the analogy I was really going to bring up was in 1990, Pat Riley was the coach of the Lakers. Okay, he leaves the Lakers, go to the Knicks. The great Pat Riley leaves the Lakers, goes to the Knicks. The Lakers are in the finals the next year against Michael Jordan. So, like, what are we talking about here? Coaching, people change coaches all the time, and changing coaches is, if anything, it's healthy to get a new voice in there. Think about this. Think about it this way. You have a teacher in school. Do you think one teacher could teach you everything you need to know about everything as far as schooling? You get different teachers every year so you can learn new things, get a different perspective, and develop yourself. And maybe, just maybe, that would work with the Celtics and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown too.
Yeah, I mean, it's if there's one guaranteed way to take this team and go and shake them up, it's way easier to fire the coach and get a new one than it is to trade Jaylen Brown or trade Jason Tatum and blow it up, or even go and get another GM. I know a lot of this blame can fall on Danny Ainge too. It's pretty damn tough to fire your GM and then go find a GM. Finding a new coach, it's probably the easiest route, and it might do the most shaking up, which this team could definitely do. But I think we are going to start closing up. So any last sort of big points here?
As long as it's not Kendrick Perkins, I'm fine.
Yeah, that's the name. It's not.
Like, don't give me Kendrick Perkins. Don't give me Paul Pierce. Like, that's not who I want the coaches to be, okay? If anything, try to talk Rondo into retirement. Like, that's the former Celtic I'll take. If you want to talk Rondo into retirement, make him the coach. Like, I'll listen to that theory. But it's interesting because I understand that it's good to have infrastructure and it's good to have, like, think what the Spurs have had. And I think that's what the Celtics want to emulate here is, like, R.C. Buford, Greg Popovich. We want to have that, that standing. But even that, Tim Duncan was there for a long time, and it worked with Tim Duncan there and all those guys. Is Greg Popovich, like, the best coach in the NBA, regarded as the best coach in the NBA? What is he doing right now? Like, is he making a huge difference for the Spurs, who have an all-star caliber player in DeMar DeRozan, have a pretty good player in DeJounte Murray? Like, if you took Greg Popovich out of there and put in another coach, would they be all that much worse? Would they be that much worse? And look, I'm not saying they would be better if you brought in someone else besides Popovich, but what I am saying is, if that's how much Popovich can do for a Spurs team with, limited talent but still some talent, then all these other coaches in the league, like, what are they doing for their teams? Chauncey Billups is, an interesting one. I'd like to see is him. I think more of an executive than anything. You know who could be an interesting one? Another Kenny Atkinson. I love, but I think he's too much like Brad Stevens.
I like Sam Cassell.
I was going to say Sam
no
Cassell.
Way, really?
I was just going to say Sam Cassell.
No, I mean, unless I see it in your forehead through your head. No, I think that's assistant coach under.
Doc.
Could work really well.
Yeah, you bring us in Cassell, played in the city for a little bit, and was he on the champ? I'm trying to think. I think he was the year after. I don't think he was on the championship team. But either way, Sam Cassell, played with Kevin Garnett too. Played with a lot of good players and has been around for a long time. Has been, by the way, an assistant for a long time. Many years now as an assistant underdog. So you bring Sam Cassell in. I think that's a guy that could be a very good coach. Now, I don't know for 100% because Sam Cassell, to me, a little more soft-spoken than he's not really he's not really going to get anybody's
you might be getting what you have, but I'm still willing to at least bank on the hope and chance of it shakes things up.
Well, he's a little bit more like Ty Lue, I would say. Not really going to get in anybody's face, scream at them. He's not exactly like Doc. He's a little different. I'm sure he picked up a lot of his coaching traits, but he's not like a fiery guy.
Right.
He's he's more like Ty Lue. He might, but I think it's definitely a change of pace, because I think people talk about this all the time, is the kind of basketball expert versus the true former player. You got your Krzyzewskis, you got your Brad Stevenses, you got, that kind of grouping of type of coaches. And then you got your Docs and you got your Sam Cassells and you got, the Jason Kidds, even if you want to throw him in there, the former player archetype. So that's really what I think. And Jason Kidd, another name you could throw there. I think I prefer Sam Cassell, but Jason Kidd, another good candidate for you if you want to go the former player route. Because if you really want to switch it up, that's what we're talking about. Former player. Jerry Sackhouse, another good name too.
They would speak. A former player would speak to these guys.
Yeah, just not Paul Pierce or Kendrick Perkins, because there's a difference between being a former player and being a former player who can coach. Okay, and I don't think Paul Pierce and Kendrick Perkins are former players who can or want to coach. And if they might want to, but they wouldn't be good at it. They're both Paul Pierce and Kendrick Perkins. They are, how should I say this nicely, somewhat unreliable at times. A little bit all over the place, which is fine for a player to be that way. But, your coach needs to be a little bit more focused than I think those guys are typically.
Kale saying, I would take KG in a heartbeat as an assistant, but I think KG's on to bigger and better things.
If anything,
in life. But I love that.
KG's in the media. KG's fine in the media. But what's good? It's an interesting point. You bring in Sam Cassell, very good friends with KG. Part of the reason Sam Cassell came to the Celtics in the first place was because he played with KG in Minnesota, and then KG wanted him in Boston with them. By the way, Sam Cassell also played with Hakeem Olajuwon. Sam Cassell's been with a lot of great players, and he's been around in the NBA for a long time. So anyway, that was all to say. You bring in Sam Cassell, then all of a sudden you have a direct pipeline to KG. Sam Cassell can bring KG into practice whenever he wants. Doesn't have to be an assistant. He can just call him up and be like, hey KG, come down here and watch practice with me with these guys for a little bit. KG comes down. Jason Tatum misses the defensive rotation, and KG's not having that. KG's gonna say something about it. KG is a very, very vocal guy. So I don't know about the assistant, but a friend of the coach, that's a benefit.
We're seeing this would never happen, but Ubi saying get IT as the coach, player coach in IT, and then Donovan says seeing IT chew people out of his height would be entertaining.
I'm just giving you the idea. I'm planting the seed in your head right now. Take this section of it, YouTube clip by it, Sam Cassell is the next Celtics coach, or maybe a big silhouette. You guys are getting the behind the scenes here. Silhouette with a question mark on it. This guy should be the new Celtics coach or something like that. This is who the new Celtics coach should be. You guys, and if you're in the screen right now, go rewatch it there because that might be up on YouTube a little bit. But yeah.
But all right. Any last thoughts here? A few more minutes left.
Yeah, as we get to the hour mark, it wasn't a great season. The Celtics really disappointed. And by the way, I'm going to have a video out tomorrow that I want people to check out on the Celtics because it's kind of an obituary of sorts for the season. And I talk a lot about what I'm going to say briefly here, but I expound on. I'll get into the details of why in a second. But basically, as disappointing as the season was, and as frustrating as it was, and as much as the Celtics didn't live up to expectations, they should have been better. I don't think that it's totally their fault. I think there are some things that were completely out of people's control, and I think that there's still reason to be optimistic about the future. And I'll leave it at that, and I'll go into further detail tomorrow.
Yeah, so check that out on the YouTube page. I'll ask everyone one last time, if you have not liked this stream, make sure to hit that like button and definitely subscribe. A lot of new names in the chat tonight, so would appreciate you guys subscribing. The channel is growing. Like Kenny talked about earlier too, we'll have a giveaway soon. Details to come, because we're working that out with one of you guys probably already know it, but I'm not going to say it yet. But my favorite bobblehead company. Yeah, I guess, you can obviously follow KJ on Twitter at @ByKJDoyle. Follow Guy Boston Sports on Twitter at Guy Boston Sports. My Twitter is EvGuyBoston. KJ, it's been fun having you on. Any last words? I know I already asked you for the listeners. Anything else you want to talk about?
I just want to take it to an hour and just maybe we should sing some sort of like song to, amazing.
You can put womp womp on repeat.
Can I sing on here, or will we get copyright claimed?
You're way too good of a singer. We'd probably get copyright claimed in a heartbeat.
No Amazing Grace. We say how sweet. I think that's as much as I can do. But
honestly, judging off the so if I were to, because I already answered this, how if you were to percentage base it, where are you on Fire Brad Stevens? What's your percentage? 100 being get him out of here. You're still 50-50?
And this is the highest I've been, but it's 50-50 because I have talked myself into it a little bit.
Anyway. I'm in a similar boat, but further on. But all right, we hit the hour mark.
Yeah. Oh, wait, one more thing. Hallelujah.
Okay, enough. Hey, you want to start getting womp womps? Connor says, remember the victory music. Me neither. Yeah, we haven't heard the victory song in the stream in a while. But thanks, guys, for tuning in. KJ will be here tomorrow for the Cavs game. I am not able to attend, but
Yeah, so Ev's doing the 1, 2, 3 Cancun. I was off with let's just say that Ev's going to Dominican Republic with Al Horford vacationing. Same place that the Thunder sending all their players so they can tank.
Me and Kemba, no back-to-backs.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
But all right, guys, we'll catch you in the next stream.